Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch the interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me.
Hello and welcome to a special interview for The Wire. In exactly 5 days, on the 29th of August, the monsoon session of the Manipur Assembly will convene. But it's already clear that the 10 Kuki MLAs will boycott the session, and at least 2 national newspapers have reported that it's probably likely that the 10 Naga MLAs may boycott as well. In which case we ask, how credible will this session be, or could it end up a metaphor for the mishandling of the Manipur crisis, both by the government in Imphal as well as the government in Delhi? Joining me now from Imphal to discuss the situation in his home state is the chief editor of the Manipur Frontier, Dhiren A. Sadokpam. Mr. Sadokpam, let's start with the Manipur Assembly, which will hold its monsoon session on the 29th of August in exactly 5 days' time. It's already clear that the 10 Kuki MLAs will not attend. And yesterday, both the Hindu and the Times of India suggested that it's very possible that the 10 Naga MLAs may also skip the session. So beyond meeting constitutional requirements, which means that the assembly has to function by the 2nd of September, what purpose will this session serve?
Karan, first of all, thank you for having me here. And that is the question. The similar kind of questions has been asked even here, by political observers as well as analysts. And I think for me, it looks a bit like more of a ritual and a ceremonial approach. But given the baggage under which this session is going to be held, I think few items which are of vital importance to the current crisis that Manipur is facing, I think is going to be rolled out on the floor of the assembly. But having said this, you also had clearly mentioned that the 10 Kuki MLAs are not going to participate, citing security reasons as well as many other reasons that they are not willing to participate into the session that is being called, which will happen very soon, and also the Naga MLAs, which is again very important. So that way, maybe the Biren Singh government would have the numbers, but given all kinds of configurations, 10 MLAs and 8 MLAs, they might have the configurations of attaining a majority on the floor of the assembly. But what are the agenda that is going to be discussed?
Let me put it like this. If 20 Kuki and Naga MLAs do not attend, then the session will only comprise Maitei MPs. Won't that be clear and undeniable proof of how badly divided Manipur is? It will simply be an assembly reduced to Maitei MLAs, the Kuki representing 16% of the population, the Naga representing another 24% of the population will be missing.
No, Karan, you are right in many senses. But why look at the attendance of the assembly? Or the absence of the Kuki MLAs or the Naga MLAs. The body politics of Manipur had been already fractured. With the beginning of this crisis, everybody knows it's all been fractured. So you didn't need kind of a measuring or kind of a evaluating of the kind of the polity that Manipur has from the perspective of whether how many people are attending assembly or not. Though assembly is supposed to be the highest level of legislative what you call forum, and I think you have said more than what is even required. So
let's then, against this background, talk about and analyze how the government has responded to the crisis in Manipur. In an interview that he gave me last week, the highly regarded Meitei human rights activist Bablu Loitongban said that the Home Minister's speech in Parliament on Manipur has made the situation, and I'm using his precise words, worse in the state. Would you agree?
I wouldn't take it that way. Of course, it has worsened. It has also, say, for instance, the Kuki MLAs, the Chin Kuki MLAs did not like the way how the Home Minister has referred to the illegal immigration. There was this phrases being used, on the floor of the assembly, which I am not very sure whether he had used it deliberately or not. But you should also take into consideration how, for instance, the Home Ministry was. I mean, the Home Minister's statement on the floor of the assembly came too late and too little. I mean, in fact, he has not delved into the other wider aspects of the reality that is Manipur now.
Precisely. You see, what he's saying, for the sake of the audience, let me, for the sake of the audience,
one more element.
Let me, Dhiren, tell the audience what the Home Minister said, because at the moment, they may not remember his precise words. He first sought to explain the crisis in Manipur in terms of, and now I'm quoting him, an influx of Kuki refugees from Myanmar following the regime change in 2021. He then went on to say, and again I'm quoting him, as there is no border fencing, a large number of Kuki brothers came to Manipur. As the Kuki refugees settled down in the forests of the Manipur Valley, there were fears of a demographic change. That is quite clearly the Meitei narrative. The Kukis refuted and
let me come in here, Karan.
They believe that in explaining things in this way, the Home Ministers ended up taking sides.
No, Karan, let's be very clear here. There are certain things that we should not, link certain factual details with which side of the narrative it belongs to, okay? Because I think the fact, even the Home Ministry had even handed out how many, Chin Kuki refugees have entered Manipur. I mean, I think you are already aware of it.
It's under 3,000.
Yeah, so let it be.
It's under 3,000 is minimal.
Yeah, let it be.
Mizoram has around 45,000.
Okay, let it
There's
be.
no problem there. Under 3,000 in Manipur, and it becomes the main point of the explanation of the Home Minister.
That under 3,000 is of the recent thing that the kind of figure that the government of India has. But if the anger that has been built upon is not necessarily since the starting of the military junta in Myanmar. I mean, what the particularly Meitei civil society organizations have been talking of is the gradual influx of Myanmaris from across the border. Since it could be in different phases of history. But then, and also...
Forgive me, Mr. Sadokpam, I have to correct you because we cannot allow the audience to be misled. I am holding in my hand India Post. It is a history of the Kuki in Manipur. Here it is, I'm holding it up for everyone to see. This makes crystal clear that the Tripura copper plates of 641 AD have already provided fairly credible proof that the Kuki were part of Manipur. That's 641 AD. Manipur royal family documents assert quite clearly that the Kuki were there from the 15th century. Buddhist documents, right, from the famous Bhikshu Paranaka show that the Kuki were there from the 2nd and 3rd century BC. So let's be careful. When we start claiming that through different phases of history, the Kuki are in fact...
I was about to come to that.
Migrants from Burma. We've got to be sure of the facts.
For instance, no. I'll tell you. The civil society organizations may have some kind of a shifting, an intent to generalize certain things. But what I'm trying to find, I say historical epochs means I'm not denying the fact there are Kukis of Manipur origin in a sense, who had been here with the Manipur within the geographical.
Let me put it like this. I don't want to interrupt you.
We are not talking
about history. We're talking about the Home Minister's handling. My point is simple. If he's going to explain the
No,
present
are you
crisis
implying?
in
No, are you
terms of
implying that?
the cookies coming from Myanmar, which is the Maite narrative? Surely it was incumbent on him to
No,
also give
please,
the
for God's
cookie
sake, do not
narrative.
call it. For
And the
God's sake, do
cookies
not
have a
call it.
different
Are you
explanation.
going to just because Amit Shah had referred to the coming of Myanmaris into Manipur? Are you going to refer it in mighty narrative? Why are you not calling it as Amit Shah's narrative?
Because the Maite in all the interviews
No,
with me,
no.
starting with Pramod Singh, have made this point.
No, let's
That's
forget
why I'm
Pramod
saying
Singh
it.
and all
As
the
well
rest
as
for a while.
as well
Let's
as
all forget for a
Mr.
while. What I'm saying is,
Karaijam Athuba
are you
Karaijam.
arguing? Are we arguing what the Home Minister says is wrong?
Yes,
If you
yes.
think what he is arguing is wrong, why wouldn't you argue? I mean, the kind of arguments that is given forward, why is the government of India not entertaining? Is there a certain kind of politics that is being played along?
Wait,
I mean,
hang
why
on.
the two
Let me. First,
communities?
you asked me, let me finish this because I think it's important. You asked me, am I arguing that what the Home Minister of India said is wrong? And the answer is yes, I am. First, I argued that what the Home Minister of India said is one-sided. It's only the Maite narrative. He did not give the Kuki narrative because the Kukis have a different explanation.
Karan, if you
But
go
he
by
didn't
this
share it.
narrative
But let me
business,
finish. I'll tell you where he's wrong. He claimed that the influx is a result of what he calls the fighting carried out by an organization called the Kuki Democratic Front against the military junta in Burma. It transpires there is no such organization. The Kuki Democratic Front does not exist. The president of the Kuki National Organization, a Mr. Letlam, wrote a letter to the Speaker of the Lok Sabha to make this clear. And this point has been repeated by the Kuki MP. It's been repeated by all 10 Kuki MLAs, 7 of whom, by the way, are members of the BJP. So even in terms of facts, the Home Minister is wrong.
no, Karan, that is what exactly I said. If the Home Minister, whatever Home Minister has said is wrong, it is income. I mean, it is the what you call responsibility of the Kuki bodies, okay, to actually argue that what he has been saying is wrong. So take on the what you call the Home Ministry or the government of India instead of clubbing things, certain details that the Home Minister has given into a mighty narrative or a Kuki narrative or some other narratives. By the logic, I mean, why not draw in? Why not bring in the Naga narrative too? And recently, Naga have also come up with certain statements, particularly UNC, the United Naga
I'll come to the Naga narrative in a moment's time.
Yeah.
I'm sticking
So
first
what I'm saying is,
versus Maite because
the
at the
more you
moment,
delve
this
into
is a
this
Kuki
kind of a
Maite clash.
narratives, the more you deal into this kind of a narratives, kind of a just skipping certain factual details of what is actually happening, it rather deepens the crisis than actually helping the crisis find a kind of a solution. In fact,
this is the point, Mr. Sadokpam, that Bablu Loitangbam, and let's remember he's a Maite, he's not Kuki. He's a highly regarded human rights activist. He's director of Human Rights Alert. This is the point he was making when he said that the Home Minister has made the situation worse by giving what he called half-truths, by giving a one-sided explanation without repeating what the Kuki believe is the explanation. After all, Mr. Shah is the Home Minister of India. He's speaking to Parliament. He should have given both points of view without taking sides. But let's move on. Let me put
what I'm saying is, Karan, but before we move on, if that is so, I mean, I'm not here to defend Bablu or to defend the Kuki groups or the Maite groups, okay? What I'm trying to state here is there are certain role being played by New Delhi. My precise, what you call, the kind of a thing that I have over this, the span of the conflict that has, since it has erupted, the kind of a narrative that worries me is not so much about the Maiti narrative or Kuki narrative or the Naga narrative, is the kind of politics being rolled out of New Delhi, that precisely worries me much more. And I think you are also falling trapped to that.
Why are you worried about the politics of New Delhi? That's an important point.
My feeling is that even you are falling trapped to those kind of a narrative builds up. So one narrative do not meet the other, and
No, come back to what you were saying. You said you were concerned about the politics of New Delhi. Please
Exactly
explain.
how it is being played out. But why I'm saying this? I got reasons for saying this. Why, for instance, since the Manipur joined the Indian Union since 1949 onwards. Okay, to be very precise, Manipur did not have the kind of a body politics that can be called autonomous at its best. Okay, when I say autonomous at its best means taking a decision on their own. It was more of a kind of a client patron relationship where whatever New Delhi does, there will be yes men all around, be it Naga Chief Minister, Manipur Meitei Chief Minister, or any. I mean, what I'm trying to tell you is the kind of a governance that we have seen is all about following the
But
diktats
hang on a
of
second.
Delhi
I accept
and
the point
nothing
you're
beyond that.
making. Hang on. The audience will be very confused because they won't fully understand what you're saying. I can understand you're saying that Delhi has imposed chief ministers upon Manipur, regardless of what the Manipuri people wanted. That's happened.
Regardless of party lines. So what I'm saying is,
But
regardless of
how
party
does that
line,
affect the present situation?
no,
How has that
and
led to
that is
clashes?
the gradual build up. What I'm saying is that is the gradual build up to the kind of a fractured society that we are seeing today. Okay, for instance, if the New Delhi is rolling out anti-insurgency operations in Manipur, they should have done it, downplaying certain ethnic equations. For instance, why would one
Mr.
community be
Sadokpam,
pitted, one community be
look,
pitted against
we cannot
another?
go into a history lesson. Everyone is aware that Manipur has not been well handled by Delhi, probably from 1947-49 onwards. That is a given.
It's not only
You
well.
cannot explain the clashes that have taken place since the 3rd of May in terms of this background, because that background will apply to all sorts of things that have happened. Stick to an explanation of the present crisis, which is now 3 months and 21 days old. And in explaining that crisis, the point
114 days
is that the
on.
Home Minister took one view, not both views. He also was factually wrong in terms of talking about the Kuki Democratic Front. It doesn't exist. Let me come to a third problem. In his speech, the Home Minister said he could not replace Biren Singh because Biren Singh is cooperating.
Everybody knows that.
And no doubt he's cooperated because he's agreed to the Chief Secretary being replaced, the DJP replaced. He's also agreed to Kuldeep Singh coming in as United advisor. However, let's be honest. How could a BJP man not cooperate with the BJP Home Minister? He has to be cooperative. That is to be assumed. More importantly, and this is what the Home Minister ignored, is that Biren Singh has lost the confidence of the Kuki completely. They're 16% of the population. They consider him anti-Kuki. More importantly, again, 15 out of the BJP's 32 MLAs, 7 Kuki, 8 Meitei, remember that 8 Meitei, have in different times expressed a public lack of confidence in the government. Those 8 Meitei actually in June delivered an affidavit to the PMO. It was Indian Express.
Now, Karan, you are coming.
Those are good reasons for removing Biren Singh.
Now, Karan, you are coming back to the kind of explanation that I wanted to give. Okay, so for me, I have always maintained, the kind of issue that began as a kind of infighting within the BJP. If you remember, it was a Kuki MLA who brought up the notion of, for instance, when Biren Singh was going on a overdrive to, according to his objective, it was supposed to be because cookies have encroached upon reserve and protected forest. When it gone on overdrive to dismantle the houses of the encroachers, it was a Kuki MLA. I mean, you had already interviewed him, who had in fact asked whether under what mandate are you trying to dismantle all these villages? These villages were
already
exactly. Mr. Hawkip had already given. I mean, he had already on the floor of the assembly had already presented these things. Maybe he did not get the kind of a satisfying, a kind of a satisfactory reply from the government of Manipur. So for me, and also you are talking about certain disgruntled or some rebel group within the BJP. So for me, something that began as a kind of infighting within BJP. I mean, of course, they were taking on the issues of the forest land, the issue of resource sharing, the issue of, and eventually ended up a dismantling kind of a drive by the government.
So tell me, should
Biren Singh be replaced?
Should Biren Singh be replaced? Is that your view?
No, I'm not saying he should be replaced or not. What I'm saying is it began as a kind of infighting.
I'm
within
asking
the
you that
BJP.
question. Should
So
he be
whether Biren
replaced?
should be replaced or not is all, within the BJP itself. That is why I
Obviously,
see
hang on a second. That is a technical
it's
answer.
all within the
Because it's
BJP
within the
itself.
BJP, but you
Be
as
it the
an
Kuki
editor,
MLAs.
no, hang on. You have to answer. You as an editor have deep concerns, I assume, about the way the government is run. I've given you reasons why Biren Singh should be replaced. What is your opinion? Should he be replaced or not?
No, if the BJP, within the BJP, if they think that he's not a fit, he's not a person to fit to be a chief minister, I mean, they can take out their own decisions. Whether replace him or not replace him is I mean, on them.
Sadokpam,
Upon the
answer
it's
this
not
for
upon
me.
the kind of
As the editor
people.
of the Manipur
If
Frontier, what
no,
is your
if
assessment?
no,
No, answer this for me. As the editor of the Manipur Frontier, what is your assessment of Biren Singh's handling of the crisis over the last
no,
3
we
months,
agree.
21
I
days?
mean, for instance, we have been the first ones to have, in fact, gave a critical account of everything. I don't know if really have done critical account of Biren Singh's government to the extent of where the governance has gone wrong, what actually is wrong with the kind of policies that is being rolled out by N Biren Singh and all that. Okay, what I'm saying is he has lots of problem. Everybody knows that.
Has he mishandled it? Has he
No, he has
mishandled
not handled it. He has not handled it properly. That everybody knows it. He has not handled it properly. So what I'm saying is, if the people wants, if the party, but of the people, I mean, when you're talking about the people, it's not good enough to ask an editor or a
No,
political
hang on a
analyst or
second. I
somebody
am
else
talking
whether
to
you
you
want him to
and
be
I want
replaced
your
or a human
opinion.
rights
I
activist
can't
to ask.
through you talk to the whole of Manipur. So I'm asking
Yeah.
you your opinion. If you believe he hasn't handled it properly,
He hasn't. If he has handled this, we wouldn't have gone this far. But
should
what
he
I'm
be
saying is,
replaced?
I'm giving reasons behind
No, hang
why
on.
he is.
Should he be
I'm giving
replaced?
reasons behind why he has not been able to handle it properly. For instance, in that phase of history where the BJP MLA had raised the question of whether the mandate given by the state government for the cookies to settle in reserve and protected forest, they had been done all through legal process. And when this question was raised on the floor of the assembly, I mean, there were very few people who could give a satisfactory answer to the Kuki MLA. Okay, right? And
So how
then
why don't you name him?
And when this the what do you call and the Union Minister for Environment and Forest came, Bhupendra Yadav, when he came to in fact he was the one who said that
Sadokpam, let's not get lost in confusing detail which the people outside Manipur are not aware of. You already said to me twice that Biren Singh has not handled it properly. I therefore ask you, if he's mishandled it for 3 months and 21 days, is it not time to remove him and put in place someone else who can handle it better?
But Karan, what I'm saying is
answer my question, please.
No, that's what I'm saying. To remove him or not to remove him now lies with the central leadership.
No, I'm asking you your opinion.
It's incumbent upon them. No, everybody knows that he has not handled it as people wish.
So should he be removed?
So naturally that follows. But what I'm trying to say is,
hang on. I just
however you want.
Therefore, when you say naturally it follows, you're saying Biren Singh should be removed as chief minister.
I won't say that way, but if people do not like him, okay, and then BJP has all the kind of authority to remove him, the central government. So why not put the blame on the center? That is what I'm exactly saying, because the entire gamut of the crisis for me has been completely mishandled. For instance, the border management has been completely mishandled by the center. How can you, blame Biren for mishandling the border? You can't. If the Home Minister has cited certain reasons for the spark of this tension in Manipur, is the government that is responsible? That is what all I'm saying.
In other words, what you're saying, I'm trying to get you to be precise, because
even if they need to remove,
you're saying the central government should have removed Biren Singh. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. If it has to be removed, but no editors, not even you can remove CMO. So why are you trying to burden upon journalists asking whether they should be removed or not? And
because it's a natural question to ask someone.
Yeah, natural
obviously. Let's not
direct that question. Direct that question.
I know you don't have the power to remove Biren Singh, nor do I.
So why asking the question? That is what I'm asking.
It's your opinion I'm asking.
So
if
my
you think the
opinion
man
is,
has mishandled it,
it's not
and you
necessarily
now
Biren.
actually agreed he should be
It could
removed.
be 100. It could be 100 Birens and 100 Ibobis, okay, or 100 other chief ministers.
Okay.
If they're not performing, I mean, they should go. It's very clear.
And you're saying that the
Clear for
central
everybody.
government is at fault for not removing him.
Yeah, but it's the central government which is not acting upon certain kind of, and if home ministers keep on saying that Biren is cooperating, what is the cooperation that Amit Shah is talking of? So even if you and I want to know what is the kind of a cooperation that Biren Singh is giving to Amit Shah or Amit Shah is giving to Biren Singh, what is the nexus? So you can't put a kind of a template under which you have, Biren in the middle, then you have the Kuki, then the Assam rifle. You can't have a template under which on the left you have Biren, in the center you have Biren, then you have Manipur police and the Home Minister. How can you have this kind of a nexus? At the end of the day, all of them fall into the same trap.
Can I just clarify that I've understood a few things correctly? First of all, you're saying that you hold the central government responsible for not removing Biren Singh. Secondly,
not only Biren Singh, for completely mishandling the entire crisis, because I think too many people have pounced upon Biren Singh when he doesn't have a clue, to be very precise. Why, for instance, even the security the advisor Kuldip Singh, replace him from the unified. When you talk about unified command, current is natural upon us to think about all the unified command is supposed to be headed by the chief minister. Now we have a new security advisor called Kuldip Singh, who in fact failed to do, maximum number of days were under his security, under the prism of his security, supervision. Okay, if it has failed to do, whom are you going to blame? Are you going to blame the? I know for a fact that.
Hang on a second. You're saying that the central government is critically responsible for mishandling the crisis in Manipur, not Biren.
Exactly. Not only about Biren, not about political figures. It's about the crisis. So now it's incumbent upon us, you and I, to speak about the crisis, not about personalities.
No. We're sticking to the
persona dramatis is important.
Mr.
Okay,
Sadokpam, let's, for the sake of the audience, first establish what you said. You believe the central government is responsible for the crisis, not Biren Singh. Secondly, you added at one point that Biren doesn't have a clue because most powers have been removed from him, so you can't blame him. And the third thing,
as far as law and order is concerned,
absolutely. And the third thing you said is the center should have removed Biren Singh if they wanted to a lot earlier. You said all three.
Exactly. When the crisis is completely ripe, and when the so-called law and order is no longer, though it's a state subject, is no longer under the hands of the.
Let me ask you one more question about Biren Singh.
Under the hand of the chief minister. Why?
Hang on. Let me ask you another question about Biren Singh. Let me ask you another question about Biren Singh. It seems that the Biren Singh government has not taken any steps to assist and help the 14,000 Kuki refugees in Mizoram. Those refugees are surviving either on the largesse of the Mizoram government or on charity from Mizo civil society. Why is Biren Singh not providing them funds, not providing them assistance? They are, after all, Manipuri people.
No, but Karan, I cannot answer you on behalf of Biren. I don't know what goes on his head.
Okay? No, I'm not asking you to answer. I'm saying, do you think he's fallen short here?
If you ask me, the crisis, that has been unfolded in this part of the country. For instance, the kind of refugees that have gone to Mizoram, I think the Mizoram Chief Minister apparently is handling it very well, according to reports. I know that is because of the the affinity, the ethnic affinity that they have.
But shouldn't there have been support from the Manipur government?
Yeah, if the government of
Manipur, has the Manipur government been remiss in not giving support to its own people?
What would, say, for instance, Biren do for refugees in Mizoram? They are not in another state, okay? Wouldn't it amount to, if Biren Singh, let us assume for a while, Biren has all the power to intervene into the affairs of Mizoram, okay? Even for receiving.
Can I answer that?
Can I answer
that?
No,
the Mizoram government has asked the central government for 10 crore. The central government, I believe, has given 3. Could the Manipur Chief Minister have not said, I will give you X crore? These are, after all, people from my state. The security situation has driven them out, but I am still responsible for their welfare. I will give you X crore to help you look after them. Couldn't he have made that gesture?
No, that gesture would be possible if, what Biren Singh was Karan Thapar, yeah, please, for God's sake. I mean, it's not, I think it's very cruel to put upon the kind of to insist upon the kind of, even if you are speaking from a very kind of what you call acceptable perspective. I mean, it's not fair to push upon that kind of a thought on a chief minister like Biren.
Why?
Okay?
Why?
Because he won't be able to comprehend what you're trying to say.
What do you mean he won't be able to comprehend? I'm saying he's not.
Comprehend means even if he understands it, he would be in no way to listen to you for many reasons. He has not listened to anybody. He has not even listened to Kokomi. When they were insisting on having the assembly session earlier on.
What is the point you're making? Are you saying he's not intelligent enough to understand? Or are you saying he's obstinate?
No, he could be all combination of all factors, all the kind of attributes that you are alluding to. He could be combination of all the what you call characteristics, all the kind of attributes you are alluding to. Okay, but I'm not denying that. What I'm saying is when you have put a person to that level of thing, and you still are not finding an answer.
Is he incompetent? Has he been promoted above his talents? Is he incompetent as chief minister?
I wouldn't put it that way. Otherwise, why would, for instance, all the hill tribes, both the Naga and Kukis, were so happy when he launched the so-called "Go to the hills, go to the village" kind of a campaign?
It's just that you're suggesting it. Okay, let's move beyond Biren Singh. Let me ask about the Prime Minister. Let's move beyond Biren Singh. I know it's
time to move beyond Biren Singh. I think we have done.
Because it is difficult for you as a Maite to be clearly critical.
No, it's not that.
Let's move beyond that. Let's talk about the Prime Minister.
Exactly.
Let's talk about the Prime Minister. For the first 79 days, the Prime Minister said absolutely nothing. When he did speak, it was after that horrible rape video went viral and he spoke for 40 seconds and indulged in whataboutery. In Parliament, when the debate happened, according to the Calcutta paper, The Telegraph, he spoke for 6 minutes, and on Independence Day for a few more. Altogether, I imagine the Prime Minister has not even spoken for 10 minutes on Manipur in the last 3 months and 21 days. How do you assess his handling of the crisis?
See, on the day when the Prime Minister spoke, I was in Calcutta, and the next day, and also on the pages of Telegraph, Biren, if you had seen the actual pages of the Telegraph, the printed copy, the print copy,
blah blah
all along, So I think that actually shows how much Prime Minister has, what is his concern, okay? What actually, where does his concern lie? So what I'm trying to say is, if the Prime Minister takes that many days to respond to a crisis of this gravity, the crisis of this magnitude in Manipur, isn't there something very funny about it? Because, say, if anything happens on the border, international borders and around international borders, be it in the what you call in the Arunachal sector or in the Ladakh sector, if anything happens, the national media would be agog with headlines. Not only that, even so-called government officials would be, commenting on it, and the defense minister would come up to say, give certain kind of a thing. But when this kind of a crisis happens in the Northeast, why it took so long for the Prime Minister of India to respond to the crisis?
You feel let down?
Not only let down, we felt is completely left out. Me as an editor of a digital news outfit in Manipur, we thought, what is this? So I started comparing. If you see, for me, at the end of the day, the Prime Ministership of India, whether they belong to the right wing or the center, it doesn't matter much so long as their policies are coterminous at certain level. So mark my word, Karan, I started comparing in elsewhere when I go to speak to friends and to deliver a lecture here and there. I used to say, I used to start comparing it when the 1962 Sino-India war happened. I think you remember it, that the Assamese were so unhappy.
You're comparing Mr. Modi with that speech that Nehru made about...
In this case, it was a verbal kind of a outpouring of Nehru, and which was read by the Assamese as saying goodbye. My heart goes with you, Assam, as if saying goodbye to Assam. It was a kind of a verbal competence.
Come to Modi.
With Naren Modi's silence was much more stronger than the verbal thing that which Nehru had given. even then, that time the Assamese thought that the entire Northeast has been left to the,
So,
left
hang
to
on,
the
sir,
geopolitical powers
please take-
that be to be,
Mr.
to have
Sadokpam, many
yeah.
people that I've spoken to in Manipur, whether they are Kuki, whether they are Maite, whether they are Naga, whether they are Maite Pangal, all four main communities have said to me they think the Prime Minister has turned his back on Manipur. Do you feel
That
like
is exactly my feeling is. That is exactly what my feeling is. That is what I'm saying. The silence of Modi, vis-a-vis the Manipur, what do you call the Manipur crisis and the Sino-India crisis. There's not much of a difference. On one hand, Nehru could, verbalize it. Nehru could, give some kind of a verbal thing on using the forum of All India Radio, and he did convey, my heart goes with you. But in this case, it's not even my heart goes with you. There's not even a farewell, it's not even back. You don't even see the back of Modi, okay? You don't even see the back of Modi. So that is the kind of angst that I have. I mean, so that's why for me, I don't want to discuss Biren or the kind of a localized, whenever I write, I say there are 4 elements that should be understood, from out of this crisis, or 4 perspectives that can be to help you understand this crisis. There, first, I said that one has a kind of a good understanding of the ground reality. When I say ground reality, means the local dynamics which is being played out. I think you have mastered it over a period of interviewing so many people. You have already been.
Please come to the second one.
Number 2 is the ethnic fault lines that the what you call Northeast has seen over the years. Okay.
Number 3.
Number 3 is what you call counter-insurgency measures. Okay.
Number 4.
Number 4 is the geopolitical ramifications.
Okay. Now,
and my emphasis I have all along. Wait for a minute. The emphasis that I have given all along in my thing is the moment you speak about the first criteria, that the first perspective or the first what you call angle that we should be thoroughly familiar with is the local dynamics. Okay, I think somewhere we're caught trying to understand the local dynamics, and I have seen all your interviews.
We cannot go back into history over the last 70
years. No, this is not history. This is played out even now.
We've had this discussion. Let's not go around in circles. This
is not circles.
We're running out of time. I want to talk to you about 2 other aspects of what's happening in Manipur that haven't got the attention they deserve. One of the communities tragically caught between the Kuki and the Maite, whilst they're fighting each other, is the Maite Pangal. Their spokesperson, the spokesperson of the United Maite Pangal Committee, Muhammad Rais Ahmed Tampak, told me on Saturday that the Maite Pangal are very insecure. He also said they are completely shattered. Do you think they've ended up becoming unintended, inadvertent victims of a quarrel between 2 other communities? They are caught in the middle.
You're absolutely right, Karan. But what I'm saying is these dynamics that you're talking of has to be seen in the light of how India, led by Modi, is actually dislodging the location of minority. When in Indian subcontinent, when you talk about minority, the first thing that comes to one's mind is Muslim community, okay? But how Modi government has displaced this notion of religious minority with another form of minority called the racial minorities. Whether you like it or not, it's become a fact. And, a Maite Pangal becoming a victim in this side of the country, in this part of the country, is also a kind of a game that is being rolled out of New Delhi. And you say you are talking nonsense. No, it is not. It is.
So you're saying New Delhi is deliberately treating the Maite Pangal both as Muslims and as racial minorities. They are the combination of both.
Yeah, and also by engaging each of the kind of ethnic and religious lines that is the little ethnic and religious line that is present in Manipur. Why would, for instance, Rapid Action Force, let me go back in the beginning of this crisis, Rapid Action Force, when they targeted, what did they do, without any provocation, what happened, they have been suspended also, I think you must be aware of it, this Rapid Action Force. And who are these elements? Who went to a shop run by a Muslim, it was kind of a mid shop, okay, run by a Muslim, and the owner happened to be a Naga. And it is in the beginning of early phase of this crisis that in Manipur, okay, they went and burned down. Who is responsible for that? What is the mindset that operates under this two rapid action force guys?
Just explain, because this is an important point. I remember the incident.
This is very important.
But are you saying that the rapid action force attacked this Maite Pangal shop where the owner is a Naga?
Torched it. Okay, they were
shop because the rapid action force saw the Maite Pangal as Muslims. This was an anti-Muslim attack. Is that what you're saying?
No, they wanted to engage all the communities that is happening there. And the shop was apparently owned by a Naga. You see how, for instance, they wanted to drag in all communities into the conflict.
Let me put this.
And it took 2 to 3 rapid action force personnel to generate that. So when you talk about even the bigger crisis like the Meitei or the Kuki crisis, please, for God's sake, do not think that it is inherently embedded into the kind of a body politics of Manipur. It could be also.
I'll tell you why I bring up this thing. Hang on, I'll tell you why I bring it up, because Mr. Tampak, in the interview he gave me on Saturday, very clearly said that the real fear the Maite Pangal have is that if they see anything that offends the Maite community, which is 53% of the population, they are worried about reprisal and vengeance from the Maite. In other words, they live in anxiety and fear that any decision, any action, any statement that they take will offend the Maite, and therefore they will be the victims of reprisal. How do you respond to that fear? Because he made it.
I think Mr. Tampak has rightly conveyed the kind of a fear and anxiety that the Pangals have. And I think he's right to a certain extent, like all minorities. Had I been a minority in New Delhi, I've lived half my life in New Delhi, okay? So if the kind of fear that I would have in New Delhi against so-called the racial majority or, me being a racial minority, okay, I would have that, but I had experienced none of this while I was staying in Delhi. There's a different story altogether.
But come back to the Maite Pangal.
Yeah. So when coming back to, and it's true for any minority communities to apprehend or to have some kind of anxiety, okay, when a crisis of this magnitude unfolds. But eventually they are caught in between. And for any community, it's not necessarily the Pangals. There are also other minority tribes, When I say minority tribes, means who doesn't want to align with neither with the Kukis or neither with the Nagas, but who wants to be kind of in between tribes. They have a lot of anxiety and fear, like what
these are
and their anxiety is
these are
anxiety is not much
accidental victims. They are inadvertent accidental victims caught in the middle.
Who?
People like the Maite Pangal, people like the small tribes you're talking about, these are inadvertent, accidental victims caught in the middle.
Exactly. Their agenda might be very different, okay? And for instance, that's why I'm saying it's not only the Maite Pangals, there are also smaller tribes I was mentioning, the Komrem tribes. In fact, the Komrem tribes who doesn't want to align with neither with the Naga nor with the kind of a Kuki, they said we are completely independent. They also had, the kind of fear which is quite similar to the ones that the Mr. Tampak's group.
Absolutely, and it's very important. It's very important that we should be aware that there are small communities who don't want to ally with either side, are caught in the middle, are feeling insecure. To use Mr. Tampak's words, they are completely shattered. Let me come to the last issue I want to raise with you. It seems that in recent weeks, the United Naga Council is taking an increasingly anti-Kuki position. First, in a formal statement, the United Naga Council demanded...
let me correct
right there and there. Let me finish the question. You don't even know what I'm asking at the moment. Okay?
No,
Just a moment. Let me finish the question.
Okay. Go ahead.
First, the United Naga Council demanded an NRC, a National Register of Citizens, to detect what they called illegal immigrants from Myanmar. This is clearly what the Maite have been demanding. It's what the Kuki are resisting. The Kuki perceive this as the Nagas tilting towards the Maite. Then, more recently, and I'm talking about the last 4 or 5 days, the United Naga Council issued a statement where it accused the Kuki of, and I'm quoting, blatant lies, lopsided history, and fabricated information contained in every statement and memorandum issued by the Kuki-Zo community. Do those two developments, and they've all happened within the last 4 weeks, suggest that the Nagas are joining the struggle between the Kuki and the Maite, and perhaps doing so on the side of the Maite? And are you worried that this could make the problem even worse?
It's going to be worse. And that is why I'm saying, Karan, at one point of time in your career, you have interviewed Mr. Moiva, which became, a kind of a ravaging hit, I call it, all over Northeast and around the world. And Mr. Moiva had clearly stated, Mr. Moiva of NSN, National Socialist Council of Nagaland, had clearly stated the only indigenous community in Manipur are the Manipur Nagas and the Métis. And then when they are claiming that, one which when I objected in the early part of your question, when I raised my hand or when I tried to intervene, is saying that certain positions, if Karan Thapar takes a position, that position is, one should not necessarily read that position as anti that or anti this, anti X or anti Y. And that becomes even more problem. It doesn't help solve any issues.
But the
that is
Moiva
what I'm trying to
position-
say is the United Naga Council's decision is a decision that they had been maintaining all along, even prior to the kind of a what you call articulation of the Métis, what you call, as you say, the Métis narrative. Okay,
But tell me,
this is
but
what
hang on
they
a
have been
second.
maintaining.
The United
So
Naga
the position.
Council demand, let me point something else. The United Naga Council's demand for an NRC happened almost at the same time as the Kuki Impi endorsed the
No,
Naga.
you are wrong.
Hang
You are
on.
factually wrong.
I'm not.
No,
It happened.
you have read the recent. You have
No.
read. You have only read the recent UNC United.
You haven't even heard what I'm saying. I'm saying the day, virtually to the same day, that the UNC demanded an NRC, the Nagas demanded a National Register of Citizenship on that very day, right?
No, before that
Kuki
already.
MP endorsed the Naga rallies, demanding expediting the Naga peace process. So the Kukis feel they were reaching out to the Nagas, but the Nagas were instead slapping them in the face. And you agree that this is going to exacerbate the situation.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. But what I'm trying to tell you is Naga's position on NRC, as well as saying whatever cookies are claiming to be fabricated and it's a kind of fabrication of history, fabrication of information, and a distortion of history is not something new. Nagas have all along, since the first Naga Kuki clash that had happened in the early part of 90s, that they have been maintaining the same positions, and maintenance of that position is not necessarily anti-Kuki or anti-Métis or anti-XYZ. That is the kind of positions that they hold. Today, are you going to blame Moiva?
But then
or
why do you believe
Nagas?
this will exacerbate
No, but
the
listen to me,
situation?
Karan, one more. Are you going to blame Moiva or any of the Naga groups for stating that the Métis and the Nagas are the original or inhabitants or so-called indigenous people of
Well,
Manipur?
it's not for me to
That
blame
is the
them,
kind
but
of
the history
positions.
that I quoted earlier, I won't go back into it, but the history that I quoted from India Post clearly proves that Moiva is wrong. So I'm not blaming him. I'm just saying his history is wrong. But come back to this, because I'll end with this. Why do you believe these statements by the United Naga Council will exacerbate the problem? What is your fear?
My fear is actually, you see, Karan, if you see the cartography of Manipur, the present cartography of Manipur, if you see it, the conflict between the Métis and the Kukis, a certain extent, for instance, we say that Métis cannot climb hills, for simple reasons that, it doesn't have the kind of a mandate in the form of protective mechanism like the ST mechanism, okay? Neither do Métis have any of the so-called protective mechanisms like that is inherent in scheduled tribe kind of a thing, okay? So that protective mechanism is not there. Neither can 10% of the area where the Métis
Why will the Naga Council statements exacerbate the problem? That was the question.
So what I'm saying, but eventually the struggle for land is going to happen between the hills and hills, between the hill areas populated by Kuki and between the hill areas populated by the Nagas.
So you see a Kuki-Naga struggle emerging out of the present problem.
Exactly. Because of this thing, this is, I think, kind of a precursor, I would this is kind of an indicator, the kind of a conflict or the kind of a crisis that you see in Manipur is just a kind of a trailer.
Okay. This is very interesting. I'm ending there, but you're saying that what at the moment is a Kuki
if anything happens,
could give rise
if the Kukis demand insists, if the demand of the Kukis is still, if the Kuki Chin group insists on the kind of demand for separate administration or some kind of arrangement, okay, and this is going to bring a bigger contradictions between Kukis and the Nagas, even at a bigger magnitude than the kind of a conflict that you are saying which has unfolded between the Métis and the Kukis.
So there is a
what I fear.
So there
What
is
I
a
fear-
potential here for things to get not just worse, but considerably worse.
Yeah, considerably worse, because you never know, and because of the kind of a configurations that you're talking of, you have presently rightly also pointed out, also, and the cookies also have rightly, sense that kind of anxiety. If, for instance, if the Meiteis and the Nagas join hands at any point in history, I mean, this is going to be disastrous.
Okay.
It's going to be
thank you
disastrous.
for
That
opening
is
the-
why I'm saying it's incumbent upon the New Delhi, incumbent upon the New Delhi mandarins to actually settle this issue in a very amicable, peaceful manner, keeping, drawing in people who talk sense, okay? Not
Okay.
nonsense. When I say nonsense, if you're sticking to anti this,
Yeah,
anti
we
that,
need to.
there will be no floor. There will be no
We need
forum
to
for
bring
any
this
kind of discussion.
conversation to an end. I think
Yeah.
the important message, as you put it, I think I'm quoting you verbatim. If the Nagas and the Meitei were to join hands against the Kuki, we would have a
Not against the
conflagration.
Kuki,
We would
against
have-
anyone.
we would have a conflagration of a dimension far worse than the present problem. Thank you for opening the eyes of the country to two things in particular. Your view of the extremely poor way in which the central government has handled this. As you said,
Exactly.
half jokingly, but very tellingly, it's not just that the Prime Minister has turned his back on Manipur. We can't even see his back, you said. And you may have meant it as a joke, but there's a very telling point behind that. And your other fear,
Exactly.
the statements made recently by the United Naga Council have the potential for the situation becoming not just worse, you said considerably worse. In other words, we need to be very, very careful. I thank you, Mr. Sadokpam, for opening the eyes of the country to dimensions of this issue that we were not able to fully appreciate earlier. Take care. Stay safe.
Thank you, Karan.
Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch the interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me.